I'm Reg Harbeck, and today we're here with CM First to talk about maintaining and modernizing COBOL with John Rhodes and Roger Hammer. Let's begin with getting to know them. John, tell us, how did you end up in this space?
Well, Reg, it's kind of a long story, actually. I graduated from my computer science degree way back in the day, and I didn't have any COBOL as part of that. And I assumed I'd be working with a language like, I don't know, C++ or something like that. But my first job with Kraft Foods was to help them maintain their large COBOL applications running on the mainframe. And so I did that for a number of years as a system engineer, and then also help them with modernizing to client server and to mid-range IBM platforms like the System 34 and 36 and 38, which of course now is the IBM Power. But that was really kind of the story of my entire career is helping people with large COBOL applications maintain those and also modernize those or modernize pieces of those more typically to help better integrate to the modern technology world.
Oh, now just to get to know you as a person a bit better, tell us, what do you do for fun?
Yeah, well, I like to get on the lake at dawn and get out there and do some wake surfing or wake foiling or maybe even some psalm skiing. So helps me kind of relax and get ready for the day, and the cold water and the sunrise kind of help with that. So that's what I like to do for fun most days.
Cool. So now, Roger, tell us about yourself. How did you end up in this space?
Sure. So I've been in the software development space all my career. I began in a number of different industries, but I've been working with legacy applications, mainframe, and IBM Power for the last 14 years. And most of that has been around product development and services with customers who have needs to better understand their applications and modernize those applications. So that's most of the time of my career there.
What do you do for fun?
Well, a little bit like John, I like the water. So I get out on the water and do some bass fishing. So I live in the Midwest, so I spend time on a number of the lakes here and also a little bit of time fishing the rivers for large or smallmouth bass. So enjoy that with myself and also with family.
Cool. Now, to begin with our topic, we talk about modernizing and maintaining COBOL. There are a lot of organizations that might not realize just how important and pervasive COBOL is. So maybe if you can start by John, we'll start with you with the high level perspective on it. And how pervasive is COBOL?
Great question, and it's impossible to answer precisely, of course. But what's interesting, I think, is that there's hundreds of millions, probably billions of lines of code out there. Certainly, at least 200 million, 200 is some people's estimates. But it's running very large applications for government institutions, for large corporations, who don't want to, of course, reveal how much code they have and details. But that's what the latest estimates I've seen is that it's well up in 100 millions of lines of code, and not only that, but it's actually growing slightly, or at least stable, as people maintain these applications and add features to them. So COBOL is not going down; it's staying the same.
Now, Roger, in your experience, what kind of things have you seen about the pervasiveness of COBOL that have really stood out to you?
Well, obviously, most of the companies we're working with are certainly Fortune 500. And for the most part, the key areas of their business are running on the mainframe. Many of those customers have recently literally millions of components within their mainframe application. And, obviously, hundreds of developers working in those applications. So, they obviously have a need to better understand and see how those applications that many times were built by people that are no longer with the company are working and interacting together. So certainly these applications are very large, and all the companies we work with, are having very large applications in the mainframe space.
Of course, some of these applications, the code was originally written decades ago, and they've continued to work really well, but may not be as modern as they need to be. And so I think one of the questions one might ask is, what does that actually even mean to modernize COBOL? John, we'll start with you.
Yeah, and then there's of course a lot of ways to think about it. I think one key aspect might be just understanding what's there before you even do anything about modernization. And a lot of times that these systems again were developed back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and people don't understand what's there, and they have to understand it. So they need maybe static analysis to go in and understand what's there. And then a lot of people are looking at different ways to modernize, certainly putting API layers on top of the COBOL, microservices, et cetera. Maybe integrating it with other systems on other platforms. But also, I think increasingly we're seeing some degree of automated transformation as a way to help with parts of the COBOL at least.
Roger, again, working sort of closer to the front line on all of this, what sort of things have you been involved with that have actually entailed modernizing COBOL?
Sure. So I think, as John said, a lot of what we do is going to be on the front end of projects, what we call deep analysis, right? So we're helping customers really understand what is in their application. We're helping them understand all the different components and the ways those components interact. And, as with a number of application analysis capabilities out there, the ability to not just see how components connect, but also the ability to drill down, see how the data flows across the entire application, the control flow, when are things being executed, whether that's batch or online applications. And so, as John said, all those aspects play into the ways that you modernize. Whether you're modernizing in place, you want to improve the COBOL that's there, make it all run better, improve performance, improve understandability many times, or, do the work to connect to other systems, or in fact, modernize, some aspects many times either off the mainframe, maybe into Java, or, keep that Java on the mainframe in order to help finding those new developers.
That's an important point. You sort of allude to the tension between, on the one hand, the sheer ponderous legacy of COBOL code out there that is, in some cases hasn't been touched in a long time or hasn't been changed much, and works well enough. But on the other hand, its relevance to a new generation of developers. And I'm going to guess when you're dealing with really big shops that have more than 10 million lines of COBOL, that trying to decide on a case-by-case basis with programs and applications how to modernize them must be a really complex and even fraught experience. John, I'll begin with you. What are some of the principles you take to that?
That's a really good point. It really is impossible in some cases to get your arms around hundreds of billions of lines of code or hundreds of millions of lines of code. It's like boiling the ocean, right? So you first, I think, have to break apart your code base and get an inventory of what's there in different application systems. And I think automated analysis helps with that, to kind of break apart, to see the fracture points or fracture planes that are in place between the different modules and applications. So I think that's a good place, that you did a necessary place to start around any kind of modernization effort, is that piece of it.
So, Roger, having started with that piece of it, then what are some of the specific approaches that you might take to the different types of modernization that each different type of application, whether it's one that's deeply entrenched or one that hasn't been modified in quite a long time or one that's relatively new, what are some of the approaches that you might actually take?
Sure. So actually related to what John said there, really understanding how that application be broken apart. And really with these mainframe applications, many times it's really difficult to identify those breakpoints, right? Data flows across a lot of different application areas. Files are used many times all over the place, or even reused across the application for different purposes at times. So looking at a diagram many times of how data is accessed, whether it's read or written or updated, and we can build many times like a heat map. So you can begin to see where is the data being read and written from, and where is it being read and written from the most. And so you can kind of pull that map apart and begin to see what are those components that flow with the data and are part of that data access. And then obviously you're left with a number of connections back to the rest of the application. So you end up picking that part, those apart in order to understand, what are the right places to break this application down and say, okay, the right first project many times is small, and get a quick early win on the project and prove out what you're trying to accomplish. So I think those kinds of diagrams and interactive ability in the static analysis area is a big help.
Now, Roger, I'm going to dig deeper into this because one of the words that sort of seems implicit in what you were just describing is the word performance. But performance means a lot more than just CPU performance. It can refer to a particular piece of data and how it's moved back and forth and whether it has to go back off platform and back onto platform, but also the performance of programmers who may be more familiar with Java than with COBOL. How do you sort of weigh those against each other?
That's a really good question, and really because there is a little bit of a dichotomy, right? You've got the mainframers, closer to our age, who have been doing this work for 25, 30, some almost 40 years sometimes. And so they're very comfortable in the green screen. They're interacting there, and bringing in new tools and capabilities, it kind of opens up a new door for them. For a younger developer who's maybe just a few years out of college or fresh out of college, they're not really used to the green screen unless they maybe went to one of those colleges that had a little bit of experience. So providing them the tools that are graphic, providing them the tools that give them the ability to interact as they would with other kinds of Windows or Linux applications, and giving them the visualization, the diagrams and the reporting functionality that helps them to see how applications are structured. And the other thing we find is with the static analysis tools, many times if a young developer is not maybe doesn't have a lot of experience with the COBOL application, because they begin to see in that structure and how it fits together, it actually is a good part of their training. They begin to see how the JCLs and the JCL procs and PARM cards connect. They see the copybooks and how, all the different aspects of programs are interacting with the rest of the application. Even as far as CICS, all those components and screens. So they get a sense of how those things play together and can interact and move in and out of those different areas is a big help, both for training and also just for overall understanding and being able to stay at a high level and view the application and then drill down quickly to exactly where they need to do work.
Maybe add a little bit to that too. I think,
please.
I'm just going to say that I think, especially with the younger generation, they're used to tools like Git, VS Code, and it's important that whatever analysis tool you might bring in, it also integrates with these tools they're familiar with. So that's one aspect that we certainly put a lot of attention to with our technology.
Now, John, I'm going to come back to you and say, okay, now let's take a look at these tools that you have and have access to that are sort of creating a big picture of the whole spectrum of what is necessary to do. Everything from giving graphical reports to management, to graphical drill down, to programmers, to opportunities to identify and choose which things can perhaps move to a different platform or a different language, or just upgrade, move your usage of COBOL to a next level. How do these all kind of fit together?
Yeah, great question. A lot of moving parts there. So we have static analysis tools, Seam Evolve IT product that we use to help do that. It parses the COBOL, moves that into a graphical graph database, and provides an integration that lets you visualize and do some nice diagrams that really help with management often. But more importantly than that, to add like an API capability, so that once the data and the application has been put into the meta model, it can be accessed via APIs, and that way particular needs can be addressed automatically. Like I need a list of all the programs that may update this one particular table, this one particular field, for example. So that's part of what we do here at CM First is that.
Today, one of the big topics, and it started out with all kinds of sensationalism, and now the people are getting more and more nervous about it because they see how it can be abused, is AI. And with artificial intelligence, on the one hand, I mean, we've discovered you can't just turn it loose and expect it to do something useful because it'll go around, inventing things and having hallucinations. But on the other hand, it is a powerful tool. And so maybe, John, if I could start with a strategic, big picture view of what is the role of AI in really maintaining and modernizing COBOL.
That's a really great question, and there's been a lot of people looking into that across the industry. I think there's a lot of certainly potential there. I think a lot of folks also have maybe a pipe dream or thinking that maybe we can automatically migrate COBOL to Java using generative AI, and that is just certainly not the case. But I think there are certain aspects of AI that are useful now, and we're certainly looking at a lot of things. But one thing is to just improve impact analysis, to be able to send in an impact analysis query in English language, and then have the AI figure out how to work within different tooling to get answers out. I think that's something that is achievable now, and in fact, we're starting to look at that and implement that as our competitors certainly. And I think over time there'll be more and more of that type of thing. So small incremental improvements using AI that augment the system analysts, but certainly don't replace them at this point. But over time, who knows? I think we're just at the very start of a revolution, and it'll go on for several years. And looking forward to getting into that and even more.
Now, when I took my computer science degree back in the early to mid 1980s, we were shown how even the original design of computer hardware was an attempt at simulating intelligence. It was, the hardware itself, the ands and not and all these gates were the original AI. And since then, there have been things like rules-based systems, and they were AI. And now we're having these neural network and other more advanced technologies. Roger, maybe if I can get you to talk about some of your experience over the past little while with things that called themselves AI, and some of the constructive and positive ways that you've seen it used.
Sure. So one of the areas we've been working in is around, other than what John mentioned, is the idea of providing better documentation. As we know, when you document code, many times the next week it can be out of date if somebody else has been in that same code, right? Not always the best at keeping documentation in the code up to date. So, but being able to use AI to better understand that code and to provide documentation, and even going to the point of maybe identifying what you could call a business rule, right? Understanding how that code is executing, how the data is being used, and the decisions around that in order to identify business rules. Now, we have business rules, what we call trace technology, data trace in our products today, and we think we'll be able to enhance that through AI, bringing a new level of capability there.
This has been really great. I'd like to finish up, starting with Roger, with your sort of just additional thoughts, big picture, and looking to the future of the technology and the modernization of COBOL.
Sure. So I think what you said earlier about the scale of COBOL, right? Billions of lines of code out there. Mainframes aren't going anywhere, right? They're going to be around, as John mentioned, really very long time, and they're very relevant today. I mean, they've been upgraded. So I think providing the capability to continue to develop in these environments, to enhance the ability of developers and analysts to do their job more quickly, surrounding them with more modern tools like static analysis, like the ability to diagram and understand these applications, and really begin to interact with the application visualizations in a way that helps them understand quickly, drill down into the aspects they need to do work on, or define the projects that they need to begin to do, and slice those applications in ways to define projects and help teams to better organize around the work that needs to be done.
Cool. So, John, if I can give you the last word, what are your thoughts about where this is at and where it's going?
Yeah, I think we're just at the start, I think, of a revolution, including AI, but not just AI, but around just all kinds of automation, intelligent automation. And I think over time, you're able to start now with some good technology and to understand your COBOL and help to modernize around the edges. And I think we're at a point where also people should be looking at, can I automatically transform COBOL, at least in selected instances, to other languages? I think that is possible. I think we have technology that lets you do that today. Not to take a large COBOL system and automatically spit out a large Java system, but to take pieces of it, automatically transform pieces of the COBOL to a more modern language and help move the move the rock, kick the can down the road a bit and on the COBOL and over time modernize. I think that's where I leave it.
Well, thank you both very much, John and Roger. And again, John Rhodes and Roger Hammer of CM First Group. If you'd like to get to know them, please do connect with them on LinkedIn. And be also sure to check out the event resources at the bottom of your screen and do click on the CM First website to get more information. I'm Reg Hurd.